Pete DeBoer presses the right buttons tonight as the Dallas Stars hold on in Salt Lake City for a 3-2 win over the Utah Hockey Club and hit the Christmas break on a high note.
You're Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer of 105 Through the Fan. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. Merry Christmas Eve, Stars fans, and an early Christmas present from the Dallas Stars with a 3-2 win over the Utah Hockey Club. A massive win for Pete DeBoer and the Dallas Stars. Is it a turning point win? That remains to be seen, but a big time win on the road heading into the Christmas break. We'll break it all down on a Tuesday edition of Locked On Stars that is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $250 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. A few takeaways I really want to dive into here on the first segment. Number one was the shuffle of line combinations in the second period by head coach Pete DeBoer. And he pushed a button, and on Monday night, it came to fruition. It worked by moving Colin Blackwell up to the line with Marchment and Duchesne, putting Stanky on the fourth line, who was spectacular in the first two periods. Colin Blackwell was the best player for the Dallas Stars in the first 40 minutes of the hockey game. He was spectacular. And really, the fourth line has been brilliant over the last 2.5 weeks. They picked up right where they left off from their loss at home. And Blackwell with a beauty to get the Stars on the board early. But he shuffles up the lines. Johnston was playing alongside Benn and Stankoven at one point. Then Dadonov joined that group. Bourque is starting to find his rhythm on the top line. What a setup for the Hintz goal to finally extend the lead for Dallas a bit. And then Jamie Benn was able to cash in on a beautiful setup by Johnston. And the Stars had a 2-goal lead and were able to hold on for it. But it is the combinations and shuffling of lines that really turned the tide for Dallas in this one. Sam Steele, Oscar Beck, and Logan Stankoven were the turning point in the hockey game. If you remember, about halfway through that second period, there was about 14 minutes on the clock after Utah came out and was really peppering DeSmith and hammering the Stars. That line of Steele, Beck, and Stankoven turned the tide. They didn't end up scoring on their shift, but they created and sustained some offensive zone pressure. Miro, if you recall, had like 3 or 4 shots in a row, couldn't hit the net to save his life. But the Stars went on the attack. Their cycle game were starting to create some looks, and then it just built off that. And then it was one line after another. Jamie Benn came on fresh, created a turnover, kept the pressure on Utah, and the Stars began to roll, and it just seemed like they flipped a switch, and all of a sudden they were going. There was confidence. They were making plays. They were creative. They were a team. They were playing as a connective, cohesive unit, and it just feels like a massive win. And I know I called it a must win, which is a bit hyperbolic, of course, in December, but it's a huge win. Now make it 197 games under Pete DeBoer that the Stars have not lost 3 consecutive games in regulation, but just a massive win and hopefully a confidence booster heading into the Christmas break. Again, line shuffling, that's a big takeaway. Finally, something clicked. I don't know what it was, but it feels like DeBoer was somewhat sending a message to Stankoven and to Johnston a bit too, that it's not good enough right now. You have to bear down and score. creating chances is not enough. You have to bury the pill. And they put Stankoven on the fourth line, and that's not all. It's not all because of Stankoven. Some of it has to do with how fantastic Colin Blackwell is playing here over the last week. He deserved to be up with Marchment and Duchesne. He deserved, and he gets rewarded for it. And I think it's sending a message to everybody throughout the lineup. You are going to be rewarded if you are helping us win games and you are helping and driving the play, because Blackwell is taking it to the net. And the Stars as a whole, with a few net drives in the game. Blackwell late as he got toppled over into the net. Johnston on the power play, taking it right to the cage. Robertson had a few good looks, seemed to be his old self, just much more purpose with the pill, following the line combinations being changed up. And that is a huge, hopefully positive sign, because it seems like nothing DeBoer has been able to do in the first 3 months of the season has really switched the Stars on a positive level. It would die quickly, and they would sort of return back to the status quo. Hopefully it's a message that's being sent. If you are playing with effort and energy, that was the difference. That was a different, just effort and energy. There seemed to be some life in the lineup with the captain, with Jamie Benn and Roope Hintz and Bork and Beck and Stankoven, all flying and making things happen. And is Utah being on a back-to-back factor in? Of course it does. They were a bit more lethargic as the game went on. Dallas got better, but Utah had a chance to put the game away pretty early if they were able to spot a few on DeSmith, because they came out humming, and they ended up with 6 high danger chances in the first period, and Dallas had 0. It was all Utah in the first period for the most part, and then Dallas got a response from Colin Blackwell with his 4th of the season. And I don't know what it is with the Stars too. They can score the first goal of a hockey game, and they just completely cliff dive and nose dive and almost forget how to play. And Utah strikes back rather quickly, just a minute and a half later to tie the game at 1. And Utah carried the momentum into the second period, but boom, DeBoer switches up the lines, and something switched, something flipped. And I think it's a combination of DeBoer shuffling up the lines, and I think sending a message without possibly having to say it, with Stankoven on the fourth line. And as I said, I think a lot of that has to do with Colin Blackwell being rewarded for his good play. But Stanky had some life. There was a couple looks in the third period as Dallas was looking for the insurance goal on the power play at a wide open net, and his stick just got tied up at the last moments. And then he had one off the rush, and Vejmelka just got a piece of his shoulder on it to keep it out. But it was more spirited. There was some passion and pride throughout the lineup, which I think is a great sign. And that's my huge takeaway from the game was the line combinations, the switch up, and just the overall energy and spirit of the Stars attack. It looked like a much different Stars team than we've seen over the last month. Just a much different looking side. And it's not like they were all over Utah and just completely dominating this one, but it was just it was a much different looking Stars team. And I think a lot of Stars fans can agree with that. We haven't seen that for a good while. For a good while, even when, yes, they've been creating chances, and yeah, they're not scoring. There's a lack of finish in their game, but they had some giddy up and some juice on a Monday night at the Delta Center, and they take both games against Utah in Salt Lake City. They shut it down late, which is a good sign. Obviously, we can't not talk about DeSmith, who was brilliant, absolutely brilliant on the night. I want to see the expected goals against was probably something. 2.65. It wasn't huge, but I mean, the amount of high quality looks he had to face in the first half of the hockey game was something. And he got beat by two deflections, and they almost had another late in the game to tie it at 3 at one point. I believe it was Clayton Keller who got left all alone in front of DeSmith, but two deflections, you will take that. If you're Casey DeSmith, Stenlin, and Hayton, the two goal scorers for the hockey club, and Miro was unable to get the stick tied up of Hayton in that third period, about halfway through that frame. And then he had to go to battle against Hayton a few times following that goal. And he tied up the stick, tied up the body, just completely bulldozed him. He was not going to get beat again. Feels like every time Miro's in front of the net, his man that he's supposed to mark seems to get a piece of some of these shots from the point, but did an excellent job down the stretch. Lindell in the third period late when Utah was on a surge with the extra attacker, just completely buried Keller and buried Hayton in front of the net, and just some feistiness and some grit. And I want to get into that, just the overall fight of Dallas and this one. Just, I think some great performances from a lot of guys. Like Roope was strong tonight. Team leading 15th goal of the season. It was set up by Bork, a beautiful little feed as they had a mini 2-on-0. Colin Blackwell, wow, just standing out for all the right reasons. Could have had a few on the night, but he starts the scoring off a turnover, forces the cough up. Something that also stood out to me late was Liam Bischel and Niels Lundqvist was a pairing in a 1-goal hockey game with like 5 minutes to go. It's like, okay, all righty. We got some trust in the young Bucks. So that was something that stood out to me, but I thought a lot of individuals had some big nights on the game, had some big nights, and it was needed, and it just feels massive. And maybe I'm overreacting to it, but after just such a poor homestand and how mediocre Dallas has looked in the month of December for the most part, it feels like hopefully something that can jolt Dallas, and that remains to be seen. But a big 2 points against a team that has been pretty lights out here over the last 2 weeks. They came in pretty hot, and it's a big win on the road. So those are my overall big takes from the Monday night contest at the Delta Center. So, big 3-2 win. Stars hold on, out shooting Utah 29-26. They were good on the dots, 55%. Power play was better. Still didn't score. That could have helped them out, but there was some more net drive and just some more overall fight to get to loose pucks, win some battles, and to keep some plays alive, although they go over 3 on the night. PK's brilliant, as it really has been all season, but the fight in general, that's where this is where the team and the Stars can build momentum, was with some efforts like we saw last night. We'll discuss that more in a bit more length in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by PrizePicks. Today's episode is brought to you by the best place to turn your sports knowledge into real money. Whether it's hockey, football, or any of your favorite sports, PrizePicks makes it easy to get in on the action. You can now win up to 1,000 times your money on PrizePicks. Plus, this holiday season, they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Picksmas and offering 2 free picks in December. And when your picks hit, PrizePicks makes it easy to cash out. You can get the money in as fast as 15 minutes. This week, you can take a look at the hockey board. They have options like Jack Hughes for more than 4 shots on goal, Artemi Panarin, more than 1 assist. It's so simple to make picks and have fun with your friends while potentially cashing out fast. Download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today. It takes 30 seconds on your smartphone. Use our code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 instantly. PrizePicks, run your game. So I hinted to this late in the first segment, but just the overall fight and approach and mentality of the Stars about halfway through the game and on looked much different from what we have seen from the Stars recently. And do we have any information to believe that will necessarily continue here into the near future based off what we've seen in the first 32 games of this season? Maybe not, right? Maybe we don't. We can't bank on Dallas to consistently play like that because we just haven't seen it enough. But it seemed different. It seemed different to me, and maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid on this one, but there was just an overall spirit and fight, especially late in that game with Lindell, Miro, the way they were clearing out the front of the net. DeSmith, who was just battling, played real hard tonight, and they needed him to be good. Giving Jake a rest. He hasn't played in a bit, and he gives them a stellar performance in between the pipes. At 5-on-5, the chances were 21-21, very even. Dallas edged Utah 32-27 if you include all situations in the contest. The expected goals for were 3.18 against Utah's 2.65. I thought Dallas did really well following the first period and shutting down a lot of the hockey club's plays across the blue line. They sagged off so much in that first period. It gave Utah way too much time and space to make plays, and that sort of fed the hot start Utah had in the hockey game. Such large gaps. Bichel and Lyubushkin, their first few shifts were abysmal. They were all over the place, out to lunch, not really marking anybody, and HC was coming in waves. They were flying across the line, and they have a ton of speed. I mean, Logan Cooley was flying all over the place. Keller, we all know, can make plays and such a wizard with the puck. Like they deserve more than they ended up getting on the night. But I felt like coming out of that first period, they did a much better job of shutting down plays at the blue line and taking away the rush game of Utah. And some of that came with better puck possession. Dallas was a bit careless with some of their plays, especially out of their own zone. They got hemmed in a few times. There's at one point they won like 3 offensive zone faceoffs or defensive zone faceoffs, in a row, and just could not get it out of their own zone. But they got a gritty road win here tonight. It's such a sloppy sort of win, and it's not totally sloppy, but just a hint of greasiness in the Stars game. And I think from a Stars fan perspective, you can be satisfied with the effort you saw tonight. And I read through some comments, and by the way, I would love your cooperation on this. For those of you that listen audio only or on YouTube, go to the YouTube community tab. I'm going to do sort of a mail grab episode here either tomorrow on Christmas Day or on Thursday, and just relay some of our wonderful listeners' comments, concerns, or even questions. It's on the community tab. I'm asking for your input and just give me a short little paragraph. Can be one sentence, can be three, can be seven if you want, on the state of the Stars, how you view them. And I'm going to give all you wonderful listeners some shout outs, and I'm going to go through them, answer some questions, and just get the overall feeling of Stars fans on the hockey club currently. Not the hockey club the Stars just played, but the Stars as a hockey club. Because reading through the initial responses I've gotten over the last 24 hours, just a lot of it is disappointing in the effort and just the energy, the overall play. Power play, of course, was a big topic, but there was a lot of responses that just included just the spirit and just lack of attitude and moxie that Dallas has been playing with this season. And maybe it is going on 2 long postseason runs and feeling a bit fatigued again, coming into another regular season and having to play this 82 game journey. And there was a switch flipped a bit tonight, and it just felt different. Maybe because we haven't seen it in a while, but I think it gives you some confidence going forward that, okay, like it's in there, but we all knew it was in there. And that's why it's so infuriating and frustrating. There are still big issues. There are big issues that need to be addressed, and it probably has to come via a trade. And many of you put those in there, so we're going to really get into it because there was some interesting stuff in there. So please respond and give your opinion. I want to get through as many as possible. It's going to be basically a whole show, a little Christmas mailbag for all of you, since all of you have been such wonderful supporters of mine and this podcast. And I really appreciate it. And hopefully I can give back in a small way by using your input and getting to hear your takes instead of you just having to listen to me all the time. And trust me, I do not have all the answers, as you can tell how the Stars have gone this season. But a good bit of attitude and pep in the Stars last night. Maybe I'm making too much of it, but it looked different, and I was pleased with the efforts, and it's a massive 2 points. I think in the grand scheme of things, they now jump to the first wild card spot. And it's still really early, but they're back in a playoff spot if you're into that sort of thing. Alrighty, let's jump into the take home segment. Stars heading into Christmas break. When they return, they got a tough matchup against a good Wild team. Let's dive into that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Sprinkle some money on the Cowboys because they like to play now for their head coach after being eliminated from playoff contention already. They look like an absolute beast. So bet some money on the Cowboys with FanDuel. So many ways for you to pick up a W. You can bet on which players will score a touchdown, how many points each team will score, and so much more. FanDuel has all of the bets for you. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Alrighty, Stars fans. The Dallas Stars, through 33 games this season, are now 20-13-0 as they pick up their 20th win last night. 40 points on the season. That is good enough for a first wild card spot in the West, just a point above Vancouver. They do have 3 games in hand on Colorado, by the way, and they only trail them by 2 points. I mean, Dallas at the end of January could easily be in a top spot, really, in the Central if they get their game going. To be fair, although we haven't seen it enough this season. But on the Victory Plus broadcast, there was an interesting thing that was brought up. And of course, Dallas has played really well with a lead. It's well documented. I brought it up so many times that Stars just have not won a game when trailing after 2 periods, and they just don't play well from behind in general. I think they have one come from behind win, maybe 2, but not many. But they're now 9-3 against the Central Division, and there is something to be said for that. If you're not gonna take care of business against the East or some of the better teams throughout the NHL, can you win some big games in your division? Because that can make up a lot of ground in terms of your seeding within the Central. If you look at the opposite, right? Look at a team like Minnesota, who I don't believe has beat Dallas or Winnipeg. I want to say they lost to Winnipeg a few nights ago. They haven't beat Dallas or Winnipeg in like 2 years in the regular season. 2 years. Could be exaggerating that by a bit, but it has been a while. I want to say since 2022 that the Wild have beat Winnipeg or Dallas. And the Stars seem to be picking up some big wins against their Central opponents. And I know they've had some stinkers against Chicago and Nashville. Those of course have happened, but they've beat Winnipeg and they beat Minnesota once this season. If they can win those head-to-head games, those are massive for their seeding position, and it's just massive in general for the confidence. And they found a way to do that for the most part. And they're now 9-3 against the Central. They have a plus 20 goal differential. You look at Minnesota, it's plus 8. Colorado's plus 1. They're starting to turn a corner. They've now won 3 games in a row. And I have my concerns. And I know this has been a hot topic throughout the Stars community. And I don't think, as I said on Monday's episode, it's not time to sound the alarm. But there are some real causes for concern for Dallas, because it has been a trend with them this season, especially the last month, the lack of consistent scoring. And that will do Dallas in at some point. That will do in the Dallas Stars if it does not get fixed. And yes, this was a great win last night. Again, we've seen this multiple times this season, however. I hope it's different. I really do. But there has to be an overhaul difference of how Dallas goes about their team game, because it will come back to haunt them if it does not change. There should be real concerns, and it is still not good enough. I want to make that very, very clear. We have every right to question it, because they have underperformed this season. They've underperformed for what we believe is a cup contender coming into this season. They've underperformed, I think, massively, in my opinion. And that may be harsh, but there's a lot of games left. A lot of games left. And hopefully it's just a taste of what's to come. That's what we can all hope for. And I will still be hard and critical of Dallas until we see a true difference in their overall game, because it's nice to get these spurts, but we have seen that this season. And look, they haven't even played their best hockey, and I know I keep saying this, and maybe that irritates people, but they are 6 points. Well, they're 11 points out of first place, which is a lot, but they have 3 games in hand on Winnipeg. So let's say Dallas wins their next 3, they're going to be 5 points away from first place in the Central. For a team that really hasn't had anything remotely consistent about their game, especially in terms of their offense. And the power play is absolute dog. And Steve Spott, as many of you are calling for, should be fired. I'm not going to go that far yet, but got to give him some time to figure it out. And frankly, look, you're kind of stuck with Steve's spot at this point. We're going to get, we'll save that for either a Christmas Day or a day after Christmas segment, because we've already hit 30 minutes here. And I'm sure we're going to get into Steve's spot when we do our mailbag, little grab bag episode. So please cooperate. I'd say I would really appreciate if you cooperate, because the more input we get, the better discussion we can have. So would love for you to chime in via the YouTube community tab. Thank you, as always, for the love and support. Merry Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas to all of you Stars fans. It's always a blast to be on here. And Dallas with a big win here heading into the Christmas break. And they got Minnesota on Friday, which will be a big one, to say the least, at the American Airlines Center. We'll be back to discuss that on Friday. Should have another episode out there before that as well. So be on the lookout for that. Anyways, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Thank you to all you everydayers. Have a great Christmas. Have a great time with your family. Enjoy this little break, and we'll see you next episode. So long, Stars fans.